Clyde Engineering is manufacturing the 82 class diesel-electric locomotives at their Mittagong plant in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales. Locomotive 8201 is shown here prior to being painted. This is the number 1 end of the locomotive from the left-hand side. To familiarise ourselves with the 82 class, we will start by doing a short walk around the locomotive. Although originally designated 94 class, these locomotives will now be numbered from 8201 to 8258. This is the view of number 1 end, number 1 side. Behind the number 1 vestibule is the engine air intake and the dynamic brake fan above. The brake pipe is the closest pipe to the coupler. The isolation cock is located here. The other 3 pipes are the number 3 pipe, control pressure, the number 4 pipe, independent release pressure, and the main reservoir equalising pipe. Note that there are no isolation cocks for these pipes in this location. The 3 isolation cocks are located at the side of the locomotive, immediately behind the headstock area. Independent release pipe, control pressure, and main reservoir equalising cock. Immediately behind these cocks are the isolation cocks for the sand apply and sand blow pipes. The top cock is for the sand apply and the lower cock is for sand removal. The axle generator is mounted on the number 2 axle on the left-hand side of the locomotive. It is a precision generator with 500 pulses for each wheel revolution, supplying a speed signal for the data logger and speedometers. The bogie supports the locomotive body in 3 places. The first support is at the centre bearing halfway across the bolster. The second and third supports are at the 2 rubber pad assemblies located on both sides of the bogie, called tri-mount pads. The tri-mount pad assembly slides on the machine surface on top of the bogie frame. These bogies are named tri-mount bogies. There are 2 park brake cylinders on each bogie, located in diagonally opposite corners. When no air pressure is present, the spring park brake will apply. To manually release the brake, the handle underneath is rotated. The battery knife switch is located next to the battery box on the left-hand side of the locomotive. The batteries are isolated by throwing the switch into the down position. The battery charging receptacle is also located in this box. Prior to moving the locomotive, ensure this box lid is closed and the battery charge lead is removed. The sanding valves are located at the end of each bogie. Each valve controls sand flow to the rubber nozzle in front of the wheel. The park brake isolation cock is shown here. It is easily distinguished by the smaller diameter pipe to the bogie. The brake cylinder isolation cock is located immediately to the right. This is the isolation cock for the after-cooler system. It is located above the fuel tank on the right-hand side of the locomotive. This is the twin tower air dryer, located on the right side at the number 2 end of the fuel tank. The engine start panel has 3 buttons and 2 lamps. The red lamp indicates starter overload. The white lamp indicates pre-lube pressure. The buttons are left to right, start, fuel prime, and pre-lube. The engine start procedure is as follows. Press the pre-lube button, wait till the white lamp illuminates, press and hold the fuel prime button, ensure the fuel sight glass closest to the engine is full and clear of bubbles, then pull back on the lay shaft to the no fuel position. Press and hold the start button. At the end of the purge cycle, push in the lay shaft to assist the start. With the engine started, observe the lube oil pressure gauge and check that there is adequate pressure. Ensure that none of the protective devices has operated. This is a view of the governor or accessory end of the engine. Here are shown the fuel sight glasses, the governor oil sight glass, and the low oil button. This button should always be pushed in. This is the engine fuel rack or lay shaft. Beneath is the engine protection device. It has two buttons. The top button is for low water, and the lower button is for crankcase pressure shutdown. The load regulator is located on the right side of the governor. This is a view of the new silencer, which runs the full length of the engine. It is supported from the roof via flexible supports. This large silencer helps reduce the overall noise level. It is shown here in a support frame prior to installation on the engine. Another feature of both the 82 and 90 class locomotives is the design of the isolated cabs. The cab assembly is supported by 4 resilient mounts. This helps reduce noise and vibration and demonstrates Clyde's commitment to crew safety and comfort. When at full production, there will be an 82 class delivered from Mittagong every week for over 1 year. The driver's console is a desk-style unit. The controls and indicators will be described from left to right. On the left-hand side is the Speedmaster selector switch and manual power control. To the right is the 30A CDW brake valve. The controls are as in the 26L brake controller, except the handles are in the upright position. The brake valve cut-off valve is latched for 2 positions, either freight or out. The automatic brake valve moves through detent positions for 7 modes of operation, from release to emergency. The independent brake valve controls locomotive brake cylinder pressure. Moving the handle to the right releases any automatic brake application on the locomotive to the extent of the independent brake valve handle position. To the right is the horn valve. And further to the right is the master controller. On the left is the reverser. Direction can be selected by moving the handle forward or to the rear for reverse. The reverser handle can only be removed in the neutral position. The throttle dynamic brake handle is moved towards the operator for throttle and away for dynamic brake. The actual position of the handle is shown in the backlit indicating window. On the driver's instrument panel, there are 4 air gauges. On the left is the brake pipe flow indicator. The next gauge has the red needle showing main reservoir, and the white is equalizing reservoir pressure. Next is the brake cylinder gauge. The red needle is the front bogie, and the white is the rear bogie. On the right is the brake pipe pressure gauge. Top left on the instrument panel is the odometer. This is a non-resettable measure of kilometres travelled. Below is the 10-metre counter, which can be used to measure the distance past a speed restriction. This counter can be reset using the yellow button at the bottom right. It can be switched on and off with the switch to the left. There are 5 indicating lamps and 1 test lamp. Top left is the white wheel slip light. Next is the red manual power light. Next is the safety control lamp, which will light if there is insufficient brake pipe pressure. Below is the white fault lamp. Bottom right is the brake cylinder park brake lamp. In the centre of the panel is the speedometer. The press buttons at the second from right bottom will adjust the backlighting. Below is the low speed indicator, which shows speed when in manual power or Speedmaster modes. The white vigilance lamp is located to the right of the speedo. To the right is the load indicating meter. The instrument lamp dimmer is located to the right of the load meter. On the right of the driver's instrument panel is the multiple unit engine stop push button. Behind the timetable lamp is a recess for the telemetry unit used for Hunter Valley coal working. A power outlet is inside for powering the unit. The Speedmaster control unit is located on the driver's control stand. Although it has been updated, the Speedmaster operation is the same as on 81 class locomotives. The driver's control stand is to the right-hand side of the driver. Please refer to the operation manual for switch identification. The electric windscreen wipers are controlled by the rotary switch at the bottom of the control stand. The red lamp at the bottom of the control stand is for the air conditioning damper. When this lamp is on, the air conditioner recycles the cab air for tunnel operation. Below the control stand is the vigilance acknowledge button. Below is the MU2A valve, which allows multiple unit brake control. Below is the emergency brake handle. Located above the driver is the overhead switch panel. The controls and switches located on this panel are described in detail in the operation manual. Located to the far right of the driver desk is the observer's console. The observer's console houses the data logger, number 1 end only on 82 class. In addition, there are a number of switches which are described in the manual. For nighttime operation, the crew can select the blue vigilance lamp located at the top centre of the cab. There are 3 reading lamps attached to the ceiling above the driver, observer and inspector. The light can be directed as required. The park brake is applied and released by the use of push buttons. The gauge shows whether the park brake is applied, on or off. The electrical control cabinet is located in the vestibule area behind the number 1 cab. Safety comes first. Always ensure that the cabinet doors are closed and secure due to the high voltage switchgear located inside. The starting fuse is located on the right-hand side of the cabinet. There is an instruction plate on the cabinet door for engine shutdown procedures. Above is the engine control panel. On the left is the start-stop isolation run switch. Next is the battery charge ammeter. Next is the engine stop button. And next is the electrical cabinet light switch, which should always be in the down position. Above is the circuit breaker panel. This panel is described in the manual. The engine purge bypass push button is located on the left side of the electrical cabinet. Located at the number 2 end of the locomotive, behind the air compressor, is the air brake rack. Most of the air brake equipment is located on the air brake rack. Refer to the manual for a description of this rack. The display diagnostic system is located on the rear wall of the cab on both 82 class and 90 class locomotives. The display was designed to be user-friendly for operating and maintenance crews with little or no computer experience. The display is divided into 2 main areas. The lower half is the keypad and the upper half is the display. The display can be turned on and off at any time by pressing the on-off button. The display keypad has 2 types of buttons: the lower buttons and the upper function buttons. There are 4 function keys which relate to the bottom line on the display. The on-off key is used to turn the display on or off. This can be done from any screen. The bright dim key is used to vary the brightness of the display. Illumination can be set to 3 levels: bright, medium and dim. The main menu key will automatically send the display back to the main menu from any other screen. The cursor arrow keys are used to move the on-screen cursor to a different position on the screen. The item highlighted with the cursor can then be selected by pressing the function key under the word Select. The Select key engages the menu item at the cursor location in the same way as the function key under the word Select. The slow speed key is disabled on these locomotives. The Speedmaster unit on the driver's console controls slow speed operation. The crew key returns the screen to the crew message function in one stroke. The help key provides information about the current screen and explains available options. The head-end power key is disabled on these locomotives. It is used in the USA for control of head-end power generation on passenger trains. The 4 function keys are used to provide flexibility in selection of the menu at the bottom line of the display. The display can be turned on at any time using the on key. The display has 6 horizontal lines. This main menu is shown here as an example. Pressing the crew key will display any crew messages that are currently active. In this example, there are no active crew messages. Only one crew message at a time will be displayed. By doing so, the display can help the user through a fault that requires something to be reset or cut out by tailoring the function keys to the particular message. The 4 function keys are used to display functions shown in the space of the display directly above each key. In this example, the only option is to exit using the F4 key. If a cutout option was selected, the traction cutout screen would appear. Alternatively, the traction cutout screen can be selected from the main menu screen by using the cursor arrow keys to position the cursor down to the traction cutout option. Once the cursor arrows are pointing to the desired option, it can be selected by pressing the function F3 key, which has the select option above it. The isolation switch must be in the start-stop isolate position to cut a traction motor in or out. The traction cutout screen allows the user to cut out up to 4 traction motors. The first screen shows bogie number 1. Traction motor number 1 is cut in. Traction motor 2 is cut in, and traction motor 3 is cut in. If a motor on number 2 bogie is to be cut out, the next screen, page 2 of 2, can be accessed by pressing the F2 key under the word Next. The page 2 of 2 screens shows the status of bogie number 2. Motors number 4, 5 and 6 are all shown as cut in. The following example shows how to cut out traction motor number 5. Move the cursor arrows down to highlight motor number 5. The display shows motor 5 is cut in. The cut out option is shown at the bottom of the display. To cut out motor 5, press the F3 key under the words cut out. Pressing the cutout key causes motor number 5 to transfer to the cut-out position. To cut motor 5 back in again, the cut-in option must be selected by pressing the F3 key, which has the words cut in above it. Motor 5 is now cut back in. The previous screen for bogie number 1 can be accessed by pressing the F1 key under the word previous. Cut out of all motors on a bogie is achieved by disabling the bogie. In this example, bogie number 1 is disabled using the F3 key under the word disable. The status of bogie number 1 will change from enabled to disabled. After the transfer, bogie number 1 is disabled. Traction motors 1, 2 and 3 are now cut out. To enable bogie number 1, position the cursor arrows at truck 1. Go from disabled to enable. Locate the function key with the word enable. Pressing the F3 key causes truck number 1 to transfer back to the enable position. All motors on bogie number 1 are now cut back in. The display diagnostic system is designed to be user-friendly. Each screen can be treated as a menu with different options available. For more specific instructions on all the available functions, please refer to the operator manual.